Hey, everybody out there on social media. My name is Matthew Johnson, and welcome to Steps to Freedom. We are still currently in our series on how to go through the 12 steps, and today we're going to be looking at and breaking down step 5, as well as looking at and discussing the principle attached to step 5. So if you have not seen my prior videos or you're not all the way caught up on the prior steps, I urge you, please go watch those videos right now, as well as get yourself a basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous, some highlighters, pens, paper, whatever you need to write down this information that's on this whiteboard here behind me, as well as take notes on some of the things that I'm going to be saying today. Also, if you viewers could do me a huge favor, if you could please like, subscribe, and share this video with as many family, friends, people in recovery or not in recovery, that would be greatly appreciated. My whole mission, my whole goal is to further the message of recovery and the gospel of Jesus Christ. Yes, I am a Christian. I do not shy away from talking about Jesus or Christianity here on this channel, but I do want to be respectful of everybody's higher power and where they're at spiritually. So if you could just bear with me, I'll try to be as respectful as possible if you could do the same. Also, I am not a pastor. I'm not claiming to be a pastor or representing Alcoholics Anonymous in any way, shape, or form, or any 12-step fellowship in that matter. I'm just a simple man in recovery who's a Christian, who's on fire for God, and wants to further the message of recovery and be of maximum service to my God and to the people around me. So without further ado, I want to get this video started, but if you would like to contact me, you can reach me at steps2freedom7@gmail.com, or you could reach me on the Facebook page that we have. That's Steps to Freedom. We also have a private Facebook page as well. You can send a friend request to. And if you just want to leave comments down below, I say this every week, interact with me. If there's anything I could do to try to help you, especially if you're in the Pinellas County area or the state of Florida. I have certain connections for detoxes, long-term or short-term rehabs, as well as if you're just getting out of jail. We have a ministry that kind of partner with Heal Outreach. It's a wonderful ministry. So please email us. I can get you connected to any of those resources. So without further ado, again, we're really going to start this now. If you want to open up to page 59, that is where the 12 steps are located in your basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Matthew Johnson, and I'm a recovered drug addict and alcoholic. So that being said, I think I haven't left anything out. Let's get right into this. If you haven't seen my prior videos before, I always do the same spiel that I just got done doing, and I always want to lay down a foundation of what step we're going into and the principle attached to that step, so you can kind of have some background information. So today we're on step 5, which is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. So step 4 is just not enough with writing down moral inventory, our fears, resentments, our conduct. We need to actually go further and have confession, because we can isolate all we want and say, okay, God knows everything. But until we take that act of faith and override that fear and discuss everything, our deepest, darkest secrets, character defects, resentments, everything, our whole life story to that other person, which hopefully it's your sponsor. And if you're not in recovery, hopefully it's your pastor or whatever religion you're part of, whoever's the head of that. Or if you just have a friend that you really trust. If you're just spiritual, go to them and confide in them. But when you release all that and you actually go beyond that fear, something special happens, and it's amazing. And sometimes you don't feel anything right away. Sometimes you just feel horrible and depressed, and you're like, why did I do this? I'm supposed to feel better, but I don't. But I promise you, after doing it, if you do it honestly and fearless, and you just go through with it, that after at least a couple days or even a couple weeks, you'll start to see see truth, and you'll start to see that you're not so fearful anymore and can look people in the eye and just have wonderful peace. So just remember, it's the exact nature of our wrongs. So we're going to admit to not just ourselves by writing the fourth step, but now and with God, but now we're confessing it to another human being. All right, and it's our wrongs, our character defects, shortcomings, the things that block us off from God, that slowly cause decay inside spiritually as well as mentally. So with that being said, the principle attached to step 5 is integrity. So integrity is being moral. That's basically what it is. To have integrity is to be honest and to stand up with morals, and it really lines up with Christianity and say the 10 Commandments and all the other commandments that are in the Old and New Testament. But if people believe it or not, that's where America got its values. It was all from the Old and New Testament, from the Bible. And the more we live by those, the healthier we get spiritually, mentally, and they're in place for a reason. So, I found out from my experience, the more I line my will up with God's will by obeying all of his laws, decrees, commandments, and statutes, the happier I get. This world offers us nothing but pleasure and false illusions and delusion, thinking that we're going to be happy if we just have the right girl or have the right job or just live and party and use drugs and alcohol and have sex. But I'm telling you, yes, that stuff is pleasurable, and yes, that stuff was fun. I'm not going to lie about it. But somewhere along the line, it turned on me, and I just wanted more and more and more, and I never got satisfaction, not true satisfaction like Jesus has given me, and this new way of life and recovery. So just want to throw that out there. So just remember, this step is supposed to give us integrity. We sit down, we're honest, we throw everything out no matter how we think the other person or persons are going to take it, and we do what is right because we want to get closer to God and clean up the mess that we caused. All right, so our lesson is going to begin on 72, and that is chapter 6, Into Action. And it's going to carry over onto page 75. So the top of 76 is where step 6 starts, and we'll be doing that next week. So if you want to open up to page 72, and I'll read through it and then break it down wherever I feel led to stop. So it says, having made our personal inventory, step 4, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path, character defects, things that are blocking us off from God. We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We had put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action. This is like, besides writing down step 4, this is another step of action, is confessing everything. So if you just go and write down step 4 and you never do step 5, you might as well should have done step 4. Like maybe it was good for you to see those things, but it's pointless. It's like going and buying, soap to bathe with, but you never opened it up and used it. You're going to be dirty. You might have some water run over you and clean you off, but you're still going to be dirty. It's kind of like that. This requires action on our part. When completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to step 5 in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking or drugging or whatever it is in your case. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk or high. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wonder why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egotism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough humility, fearlessness, and honesty. In the sense, we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. So right there it says, if we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking or drugging, whatever it is. So right there, that's saying that this step is vital. And if you see my prior videos, you know vital means life and death. So this is a life and death step. And if we skip it, we may not overcome drinking or drugging. So just know that there is a chance. It says may. There is a chance you might stay sober the rest of your life. Some people can stay dry and never work 12 steps, and sometimes they're miserable, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're alcoholics and drug addicts, sometimes they're not. They were just hard drinkers or users. I don't know. I just know for the majority, when they sum this up in the first 100 to this book, most people, if they skip the step, seems to relapse. So like I said, I'm just giving you the facts and my experience, and you make your choice. But just understand that this is a vital life and death step, and that you shouldn't skip. And then it goes on to say this is a humbling experience, and some people turn to easier methods. Some people just continue to stay into the meetings. That's an easier method instead of going through the 12 steps. I had a sponsee who, seemed promising to go through all the 12 steps. He got to step 4, almost finished all of it, stopped, and he's still sober. And he's coming up on, I think, like 7 or 8 months. And he's still staying sober, has a good job, has a car. He's doing great. He seems to be happy. I see him show up at the home group once in a while when he's not on call doing something. Great guy. And I'm here to help him as a friend, to be in the network. But he chose to make that decision. Why? Definitely fear-based, but I don't know. That's something only him and God knows. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you, that you don't substitute just going to meetings or being involved in AA or whatever 12-step fellowship instead of working the 12 steps. That's where the psychic change, the change of personality, the spiritual awakening happens, is through these principles, through these steps, and working them every day. It doesn't just happen in the meetings. Can that happen though? Yes, you can get some satisfaction and some spirituality and all that, of course. But the real change that you're going to get is through these 12 steps. I just want to make that loud and clear, especially for the newcomers or the people that are not in recovery that have no idea, is by spiritual principles is where we get the spiritual awakening, the change of personality. And then it goes on, they relapse and they wonder why they keep relapsing. I'm not going to enough meetings. I'm not involved enough. Are you doing the 12 steps? Do you have a sponsor who's qualified, and are you working these steps? And if not, then that's probably your problem, even though you do got to mix everything together. Remember, the unity, service, recovery, meetings, fellowship, home group, commitments, carry the message, and work the 12 steps. Do that all together, and you most likely are going to stay sober. All right, and then it says they thought they learned enough humility. They thought they lost their pride and ego and things like that, but they didn't humble themselves enough. And this step, if you do it correctly, is extremely humbling. I know when I said some of the worst things that I did, thinking that I was the only one that had experienced those things, I was wrong. I was mistaken, and it was such a relief when I heard my sponsor say certain things that he went through or he did that lined up with mine. And if he didn't have the exact experience, he found something very similar. And, he didn't care. He's like, whatever, man. We all have done certain things in our life that we're not proud of. It's like, at least you're going through and changing it. You can say that you're actually becoming a new person. So then it goes on. We're on page 73, the next paragraph, right here. It says, more than most people, the alcoholic or drug addict leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character, like we talked about in step 3. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking or using, or whatever it is in your case. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics or drug addicts and their chance of recovery. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we're expected to live long or happily in this world. So that says right there, I don't know about you, but there was a time in my life where I did want to get sober, even though I still wanted to get drunk and high. But I would go in these institutions and I thought I was willing enough and really wanted to get sober. But I wouldn't even be honest with these doctors. They're like, how much you drinking, how much you're using, and this and that. And I would still not be totally honest. Or past trauma that has happened to me, I wouldn't even bring it up. And I wonder why I wasn't staying sober. I wasn't entirely honest. If you're not willing to be entirely honest from step 1 all the way through the 12 steps, the chances of you actually changing into a new person, slim to none. Maybe it can happen. I don't think it can happen at all. But that's just my opinion. Feel free to disregard. But when I really got honest and humble and was like, you know what? I'm going to listen. I'm going to do what the sponsor tells me to do. I'm going to do what these doctors tell me to do. I started to get results. They were trying to label me bipolar 1 mania. And because I would do these crazy episodes where I would try to jump off bridges and go into buildings saying I had a gun and having them locked down, the police would come and I would fight with them. That's why I've had so many violent charges and been arrested so many times. I was put in mental wards, all kinds of crazy episodes. And they're like, every single doctor is like bipolar, bipolar, bipolar. But, alcoholism and drug addiction, this disease, the symptoms are exactly of bipolar. They thought I was schizophrenic, all kinds of stuff. And now I can say I'm not on any medication. But in the beginning, I did follow the doctor's order. But it is more as I started working these steps and doing the whole program of recovery, the more spiritually, physically, and mentally I started to become. And I got rid of all that filth and stuff that was blocking me off from God. And I started to see truth, and now I'm not on any medication. And I feel great, and I'm happy. I don't do anything crazy. I hold down a job. I go to school. I'm a father. I pay child support and pay my bills and groceries, and not on any food stamps anymore. Like, life gets good, But, just kind of not trying to get off track, but just relating it to, I had to get honest with these people, these doctors and stuff, and follow their orders. And a lot of them don't want to help us because we're so crazy and we don't listen and we're not entirely honest. And it's important to do those things if we really want change and want to get help. All right, so now we're on 74. It says at the top of 74, expect to live longer happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons. So you can do this with multiple people if you choose. With whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must and of course will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with somebody ordained or by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics, drug addicts, whatever it might be in your case. If we cannot or would not do this, we search our acquaintance for a closed mouth, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. You could do lawyer, whoever. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. So be very careful who you share this information. Don't go, I know for me in the past, I would tell my parents all these horrible things that I've done, sometimes wanting attention from it, and sometimes being oblivious and not realizing these are my parents and they don't understand me. Even normal people, some of the stories and even my humor and the way my brain is wired now is different than average people. I went through a lot of trauma and seen horrific stuff, and it's desensitized me. And to some people, it's appalling saying one little sentence that I'm like, what? That's just been my life for ever since I was a child, in and out of institutions, and been around those type of people and those harsh situations. So be very careful not to disclose any information, not just even in a fifth step, but from this point on, be careful what you share to close loved ones. And we don't want to make them worry or be in fear or look at us any more different. And then it goes on to say, we have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand, yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one who is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. So just remember, the rule is we must be hard on ourselves, right? That's not saying beat ourselves up and make us feel so, horrible and shameful and guilty. It's just hold ourselves to a higher standard. Don't try to justify or wiggle our way out of anything and manipulate ourselves like we've been doing our whole lives, or at least I've been doing. And but always considerate of others. Think of others more than you do yourself. Love others. Pray for others. What can you do to help society and give back instead of take, like I know I have done for so many years prior? I just used taxpayers' money and caused horrible situations to happen that affected other people's lives. Now I can correct that and give back instead of take. And then also, if you find like you get to this point and you had a sponsor and your sponsor passed away or relapsed, or in my case, like I went to jail, but I knew how to do these steps, and I worked up until step 4 into the jail I was in. And I even at one point was looking for a priest or pastor or someone that I could do step 5 with, but that never happened. So as soon as I got out, I made sure I got a sponsor, and I finished step 5 and the rest of the steps while I was going to meetings and having a home group and all that. But if something happens and it's out of your control, it's okay to postpone or evade, but we want to make sure our motives are pure. Always check your motives on anything. Are you doing this for the right reason? Are you really stopping, not going through the rest of the steps because you had to change sponsors because you didn't trust your sponsor? Make sure that the sponsor you have, you actually trust, and you want to confide in that sponsor is not going to go tell your whole life story and all your character defects to everybody, because that does happen in these 12-step fellowships. Not everyone is perfect. Even pastors and people in churches do that stuff. So be very careful. Take your time with not taking too much time, and get through this work as quick as possible. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he or she be able to keep a confidence that they fully understand and approve what we are driving at, that he will not try to change our plan, but we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. So also remember, if you ever have a sponsor and they're like, take your time with the steps. Oh, we don't need to rush it. We'll get to the steps when we get to it. If you hear that, run. I know for me, I couldn't stay sober. I'm not one of those people who could stay dry or sober or whatever. I can't. I only can stay sober when I'm in an institution. As soon as I'm out, I'm on borrowed time. I'm still on borrowed time. But now I have a firm foundation that it's not the same like I was in the beginning. I really needed to be in this work and giving back and being involved in this fellowship early on. Okay, let's now get to the top of 75. It says, when we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. That's our fourth step. We have written an inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. Usually, a fifth step can take anywhere from 2 hours all the way up to the longest one I ever did with somebody was 7 hours. So anywhere between 2 to 7 hours, the average is probably 3 or 4 hours, depending on how much they write. Sometimes there's a lot of stuff, sometimes they're not, so every case is different. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize, or she, that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most people approach in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. And then the next thing I'm about to read right here is, in this next paragraph on 75 in the middle, is the fifth step promises. So they're saying, according to this literature, that when you do this, sometimes right away, other times it can take days or weeks or months, who knows? Usually it's within a few days or weeks, at least. It's on God's time, it's not on our time, that these promises will come true. And remember, there's a promise for every step. You got to just look for it. And if you have a sponsor, talk to them and they could point it out. But this is the fifth step promise. It says, we pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink or drug problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel that we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. So I'm going to stop right there. And also, I just want to add to that. I've heard a lot of crazy different fifth steps with people who are really being honest. So if you are a sponsor and you're new, or even a sponsee, check this out, that I've heard people kill other people. I've heard people molest their children. I've heard people abuse their husbands, wives, whatever. I've heard a lot of crazy things. Rape, and you got to just make sure that you're spiritually fit doing this stuff, because you can't, it's not your job if you're with someone and they molested a child. You, first of all, have to respect the code of I'm not allowed to tell anything no matter what happens. Obviously, if they were going out and doing that right then and there, that would be different. But if this is in their past and they're not doing that stuff, it's one thing. You can't say anything or do anything. You have to look at that person as a human being, as a child of God, and understand that we're not perfect. And it's very difficult sometimes to not look at a person with resentment or hate or want to call the police on them or anything, but you have to follow these codes and these morals and these oaths that we do in this program. So just remember, it's important for these people to trust you enough to say these things, because if there's something in your past, whether if you hurt a child or someone raped, something that's maybe extremely embarrassing and humiliating, whatever it may be, if you don't confess that and you hold on to that, the chances are slim that you're going to actually stay sober. And so just remember that. That's why after it says you have peace and ease, and you feel like you're walking hand in hand with your Creator, because all that stuff that you've been like thinking about subconsciously or consciously every day has been weighing on you like a ton of bricks, and now you confessed it. And once you confess it once to that one person, later on in fifth steps, there's times where I confess things that I'm embarrassed of, and that you don't want people to hear, but I'll say it to my sponsees, because they're saying embarrassing things, and I'm like, look, this is what I experienced too. It's the same thing. We're very similar, and it's like doing another fifth step over again. It gets easier and easier and less fearful and embarrassing. And I can say certain things now, whether it be in meetings or not. Whenever I feel the Holy Spirit leading me to say these things, then I will. Even randomly to people on the street, if I feel convicted, like, hey, you should be saying something from your past, I will. And I give all glory to God. All my hardships, all the horrible stuff happened, I let God turn it, what was evil, to good. And it's just amazing to go through this. So make sure you're completely honest. I know I've said that several times, but seriously, no matter what it is, be honest with this person. Just make sure you trust the person. Okay, next on the bottom of 75, in this last third paragraph, it's going to give you directions. You see I have my stuff all highlighted and everything, or underlined. It gives directions on what you're going to be doing. Okay, so once you go through and confess to your sponsor or pastor or whoever it is, your whole inventory, then it says, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour. There you go. Take notes on this stuff. You have 1 hour. You have to sit. Carefully reviewing what we have done, we thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. If you've been watching these videos, then you know that's page 59, and it has all 12 steps on there. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, so you're only going to be looking at the first 5 steps. We ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man or woman at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skipped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? So again, it's kind of the same thing I've been saying. Are you being 100% honest, and have you left anything out? Sometimes we have been 100% honest, and we have left some stuff out. And if you're sitting in this quiet place, usually, it's like nature or something I recommend. I know I did mine in nature. After you're sitting in this meditation for an hour, the whole time you're reviewing, you can either look at your papers. You don't have to have your eyes just closed or anything. Review your papers. Pray to God. Say, God, am I really being 100% honest? Did I leave anything out? Is there something that I'm not aware of? Or is there something that I personally held in and I didn't have the courage and the strength? Please, God, help me to be honest with that person and relieve me of this. Help me to see truth. And if nothing comes up, then you do the rest of 6 and 7, which I'm not going to be getting into, but very simple. Step 6, you just ask God to remove all your character defects. And step 7 is just a prayer. It's the continuation prayer from step 6. But I'm going to make that, probably those two, maybe even together for next week. So just remember, it talks about, all through this book about building a foundation. That's why it's talking about cement, using Freemasonry terms, not the secret society, but the regular Freemason terms, block layer terms. So you have the cement, you're building a foundation. The cornerstone was step 2. the foundation, all that, step 1. And then, step 3 is you're building an arch. Okay. And the last piece is the keystone that goes in the middle, and it holds your foundation up. And then after that, it gets really easy to build your home, if you know what I mean. After working this, you'll have a pretty good foundation. And then it just takes time. And the more time that you have by working this stuff, the more healthy you get spiritually, physically, and mentally. Okay, so if you have any questions on that, you can email me, steps number 2, freedom7@gmail.com, or put down some comments below. Facebook, you can reach us on. But that's pretty much going to do it. There's nothing else I really need to go over. It's really self-explanatory. But just remember, follow the directions of the book. This is an amazing step if done correctly. Like I said, just be honest and fearless, and see what happens. What do you have to lose, right? The only thing you do is your life, actually. But hopefully I will see you next week. If you don't mind, if you could please like, subscribe, and share this video, that would be greatly appreciated. Message me, interact. Also, if you want to put your testimony here on this channel, email me. Most likely it'll be the best way would be most likely to send your video through Messenger email. I don't know how to do that stuff yet, but send me your testimony videos. I'll edit them and then put them up on this channel to show people that God can use you, rather if you're in recovery or not. I would love to see testimonial videos of you becoming a Christian if you're not in recovery, or if you're in recovery, how'd you get sober and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for everything, guys. I hope to see you next week. If no one said they loved you, just know that Jesus does, and so do I. God bless everyone. Hey everybody, my name is Matthew Johnson. Welcome to Steps to Freedom. My last prior video that I did, Step 5, I forgot to insert the demonstration that is on this whiteboard here behind me. Please forgive me for that. I'm going to try to edit it in the video, but if not, then this is going to be a separate video to kind of complement the last video for Step 5. So this is going to be from the sponsor's point of view, and if you're a sponsee and you're not sponsoring yet, just take notes. These are the things that you're going to want to do for your sponsee when they are going through their confession and telling you what they have written down in their Step 4 moral inventory for their resentments, fear, and their conduct, or better known as the sex conduct. So what you're going to do, if you're the sponsor, you're going to have 2 sheets of paper separate. On one of them, you're going to have this demonstration right here. So just block out this. You're going to have self-will, a line, and God's will. And all this is going to be blank. You're just going to have that. And while your sponsee is going through and reading through their resentments, fears, their conduct, you're going to hear certain character defects and shortcomings, like, that they might be being judgmental or greedy or prideful, unfaithful, dishonest, selfish, fearful, weak, closed-minded, unwilling, things of that nature. And every time you hear that stuff, you're going to write that stuff down. The whole point of doing that is to show them the opposite side of what God intends for them, God's will. So we want to turn our self-will over to God's will. We want to align self-will over to God's will. And it is not an instant process. Some of these character defects, yes, we can manage and get them to go away, but God has to remove them. So it's on God's time, but we still have to do work. We have to align our will up. That means we have to take action. And the more action we take and the more we line our will up by obeying all of his laws, decrees, commandments, and statutes, the more the character defects go away or subside. And, it doesn't mean they can't come back, because they will. Sometimes there's new ones. Sometimes the old ones don't come back. But it's a lifelong process that needs to be started as soon as possible. So while you're going through, you're going to put the opposite of the self-will. So like in this demonstration, you see where under self-will I have hateful, And under God's will, I have loving. Self-will, I have prideful, and the opposite of that would be humble. Under that, I have unfaithful. The opposite of that would be faithful. Under that is dishonest. Under that is honest. So you go through this whole process, and it allows the person to have a better view of how to live in God's will. So this is definitely what I know God doesn't want me to be, and that's what I was and still have some of these character defects. And this is what God wants me to be. So if you're the sponsor, write down as many of these as you possibly can, only that you're hearing from your sponsee. You don't want to just make up stuff to have stuff written down, even though that still will probably be beneficial. We want to try to be as honest as we can. So whatever you're seeing from your sponsee when they're telling you, or what you can see, write that down. Also, when that is all done, you should also be at the same time making their amends sheet, even though that their amends list is usually based off their resentments and their conduct list. Okay, so you will already have tons of names and everything. Some of them you're going to make amends on, some of them you're not. And this is a process when you get to step 9 that you're going to be doing with your sponsor, if you're a sponsor listening. But it's really your sponsor's job to make sure you have your amends list. And it's really important if the sponsor can still write it all down and say next to mom, when the sponsee's saying what they did to mom, I always ask, hey, do you owe mom any money, or what? When we pull things out, I write a quick description like, mom stole $5,000. It's right it for mom and dad. I'm not saying this is actually true. I actually stole a lot more than that and owe them a lot more money than that. But it gives a demonstration. Girlfriend abused, lied, made worry. Courts, $10,000. Hospitals, $100,000. A friend named Bob damaged his property, maybe abused him verbally, mentally, physically, and the list goes on. I just wanted to give a couple quick, brief demonstrations of that. So these are the things that a sponsor is going to want to be taking notes and writing down, and then kind of just guiding the sponsee. So hopefully this video got inserted into the last video. If not, this is a separate video. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed the demonstration.